This is the Evening News, so Wednesday, August 13, 2014. I'm Michael Young. Thanks for joining us. Making the headlines tonight. PPP accuses GCOM of padding preliminary voters list ahead of possible snap polls. UG faces closure over non-access to loans. U.S. Guyana agree on implementing revised U.S. lead project. Government still to formally discuss no confidence vote as opposition continues to change goalpost. King's Jewelry World employee hurt in friendship accident. And First Assemblies gets $41.7 million from EU. It's now time for the news in detail. Let's tell you first that Vice Chancellor of the University of Guyana, Dr. Jacob Obadiah, says that the entity will be shut down if the Finance Ministry does not respond positively to the increased tuition fees, contending that 40% of students depend heavily on loans from the government. More details in this report.
A high level of uncertainty surrounding students of the University of Guyana's ability to access loans currently exists, with the loans department remaining mum on the situation. According to the Vice Chancellor of the University of Guyana, Dr. Jacob Obadiah, the non-responsiveness from the loans department and by extension the Finance Ministry can result in a total shutdown at both the Turkine and Tain campuses.
The plan B is very simple. We will not offer, we close down the university for the year. Because if we have no student who can pay fees, then we will have no student to teach. And then we have the liability of lecturers that have to receive payment every month. So it might be useful for us to just shut down for 6 months or 3 months.
The Vice Chancellor made this announcement today during a press conference at the Education Theatre Turkine in the presence of Registrar Vincent Alexander, Bursar Holder Punai, and the Student Society Acting President Joshua Griffith. The Vice Chancellor said when contacted today, the Student Loans Office was unable to give definite answers.
The explanation I got at 1:30 this afternoon from the Student Loan Office is that we are waiting for instructions from the Ministry of Finance.
Grilled on whether the administration had consulted with the Finance Ministry before implementing the increased tuition fees, Dr. Obadiah said that representatives from the Cabinet, the Finance Ministry, the Education Ministry and the opposition sit on the Council of the University. According to him, once Council approves, government approves. The Vice Chancellor said even as the registration process begins, the administration is expecting that students proceed to pay their fees, noting that there are a lot of liabilities. He pointed that security services alone accounts for $11 million monthly, noting that financial accommodation must be made also for electricity, water and telephone services, among others. Meanwhile, the acting president of the Student Society said students are already lodging their concerns as uncertainty prevails.
Just about 40% of our students would use student loans as their means of paying for the services here at the university. And a lot of students have come forward and have asked the question and are worried about the uncertainty of the student loans.
Griffith said that the Finance Ministry could prevent the closure of the university by signaling its approval for the release of student loans. Last year, 40% of the student population opted for loans, but with the increase in tuition fees, this percentage is expected to jump significantly. New students are now required to pay a tuition fee of $160,000 in addition to $50,000 in facility fees, while continuing students will pay $130,000 along with the facility fees. Adjustments have also been made to the fees paid by international students.
The governments of Guyana and the United States of America have reached an amicable agreement that would see the controversial Leadership and Education Democracy project being implemented in full. Details in this report. The two sides came to an agreement and given the U.S. lead project the green light to be implemented after months of back and forth discussions because of concerns raised by the government here over the project's initial design. Speaking to media operatives at a joint press conference held by Guyana and the U.S. authorities, U.S. Charge d'Affaires Brian Hunt said that the way is cleared now for Guyanese to benefit from all of the four components of the project after differences as far as design and processes were resolved.
The willingness of the government to participate in the design and implementation of the program ensures that LEAD will accurately reflect the needs and interests of all Guyanese stakeholders. The program can now embark on its important work of facilitating conversations and undertaking activities that will hopefully yield to consensus and collaboration between all stakeholders that serve Guyana's national interests. As we move rapidly from negotiation to renewed project implementation, it is important to recognize the shared importance that all stakeholders and beneficiaries of the program place on inclusive democratic governance. It is a fundamental pillar of our respective societies. It is my sincere hope that the LEAD program, one designed to promote understanding and active participation in democratic governance, will contribute to enhancing democracy and its positive values that all Guyanese share and desire for their country.
Dr. Luncheon said that government was satisfied that a mutually acceptable agreement was reached and is confident that the project will deliver on its promise to improve the quality of democracy being practiced here.
There was a commitment to ensure that the benefits of a USAID LEAD project, those benefits were not denied Guyana and Guyanese. An overarching approach to getting us where we are today. A mutually acceptable regime was all that the government of Guyana insisted as an outcome of this process. And we are here today representing both sides to affirm that this point we're at represents the achievement that we both sought. I don't believe, however, that we should close our eyes to the actual task of implementation.
Asked whether there would be a renegotiation of contracts and timelines given the time lost while the project was placed on hold to facilitate more negotiations, Hunt responded in the negative.
The implementer of the program remains the same, the International Republican Institute. The broad objectives of the program that we contracted with them to conduct remain the same. Workshops to strengthen Parliament, activities relating to civic education for local government elections, activities relating to assisting women and youth to participate more fully in the civic life of the program. So in terms of the actual contract with IRI, that does not alter. We will continue to work along the time frame that was agreed upon with IRI at the time the contract was signed, which means we have a little less than a year remaining. Certainly we, the U.S. government and IRI, may agree at some point in the future to extend the life of the contract, but as of right now, we continue to work along the same timeline that was originally laid out. So I think we're probably in a relatively good position now to begin moving forward with those activities.
Tensions rose earlier in the year after government objected to various components of the U.S. LEAD project, which it said were controversial and aimed at interfering in the local democratic processes here. Eventually, word spread that despite government's concern about the design and implementation of the project, it was progressing, and this forced the Donald Ramotar administration to shelve the project as the former U.S. Ambassador DeBrent Hart appeared to be disregarding their concerns. Discussions restarted, which led to the culmination of an agreement that was announced today. LEAD will address 4 components, including civic education for local government elections, strengthening the parliament, and work with youth and women. Fourth Evening News, Michael Young reporting. Cabinet Secretary Dr. Roger Luncheon says that government is yet to commence a string of formal discussions on the AFC's no confidence motion, which was tabled in Parliament last week. More details in this story. Dr. Luncheon said that the Cabinet plans to commence a string of formal discussions soon with the aim of understanding and rationalizing the scope of the no-confidence motion tabled by the Alliance for Change, which will be supported by its opposition ally, the APNU.
What happened, or what you would notice, that one that started out as a no-confidence motion has morphed into a number of different possibilities. I'm not even certain in my mind, listening to what is being said in the media, what is being attributed to Nagamutu, what's been attributed to Granger, that indeed there's some, how should I say, a consolidated view of what this no confidence motion is all about. So it's kind of difficult to sit down and have a full discussion when, for all intents and purposes, like the goalposts are changing, and every day we get in a different interpretation.
He said that informal discussions were initiated in the matter and government stakeholders have argued from different perspectives.
So based on what has been submitted, can you say whether government has verified its legality in the way that was submitted to the Parliament, to the National Assembly?
No, I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, a party can put a motion to
No, the way it was structured. Have you verified whether the way the motion was structured, whether it was...
But that's a decision that is purely the Speaker. The standing orders and the practices, the Speaker rules on the acceptability of a motion. And I don't believe that there's any doubt in the Speaker's mind about emotion. He is pronounced on this matter.
Does the government plan on bringing forth a confidence motion to combat the no confidence motion that was done in places like that?
I don't know. I've never heard about that, but I suppose it could be done. The government say we got a confidence motion. I don't know.
Already discussions are taking place in the opposition camps about the no confidence vote as preparations continue across the board for the advent of a snap elections to be held by January 2015. General elections are not constitutionally due until November 2016. Fourth Evening News, Michael Young reporting. Meanwhile, Guyanese stand to benefit from a spate of developmental works, including new roads, pumps and bridges, after Cabinet gave its no objections to several contracts today. Cabinet Secretary Dr. Roger Luncheon shared details of the contracts, which were given the green light when the Cabinet met on Tuesday, August 12, 2014.
In the local government system, the upgrading of the mainstay, Red Lock, and this is a Chinese Lock area in region number 2. That is upgrading of the mainstay Red Lock. This is the road, of course, going to the that hotel, the mainstay, the resort. And that is at the cost of 16.3 million Guyana dollars. 16.3 million Guyana dollars. Then, public works. And here specifically, road transportation, the rehabilitation of bridges, 2 lots, in Bounty Hall. This is in Region 2, 11.05 million. And then the old Micah Bridge, the one that was replaced, and that is being rehabilitated at a cost of $33.9 million. This is the old Micah Bridge, $33.9 million, aggregately $45.03 million for the rehabilitation of bridges. Security, the phase 3 construction of the Lusignan prison, and this is in Region 4 on the East Coast at a cost of $52.8 million Guyana dollars. 52.8 million Guyana dollars. That's phase 3. And there is a phase 2 that deals with, again, construction of the Lusignan prison, and this specifically is with a trade shop, and that is at a cost of 26.2 million Guyana dollars. 26.2 million Guyana dollars. agriculture, construction of a sluice at Baggotsville, construction of a sluice at Baggotsville, this is over in Region 3 and the West Bank, at a cost of $48.6 million Guyana dollars. $48.6 million Guyana dollars. A number of drainage pumps in various regions of Guyana. Again, in agriculture, D&I, you have a drainage pump station at Gangaram. This is Kanji Region 6, and that is $213 million Guyana dollars. $213 million Guyana dollars. Another drainage pump station, and this is at Lima on the Essequibo Coast, Region 2, $191.5 million Guyana dollars, $191.5 million Guyana dollars. Another one at Japa, this is Region 6, and that is at a cost of $181.8 million Guyana dollars. Lastly, the repair and the rehabilitation of the tug Rickford L. 2 or 11, I'm not certain which it is, Rickford 2 or Rickford 11, and that is at a cost of $31.4 million Guyana dollars. Those, ladies and gentlemen, are some of the contracts for which Cabinet granted its no objections for the award.
Former President of the United Nations General Assembly, Dr. Rudy Nsenali, says the UN has been reduced to a toothless poodle as violence and war rage on in the troubled Middle East with no clear solution or end in sight. Details in this story.
Regrettably, the United Nations seems to have become now a helpless onlooker, observer of various conflicts, instead of an effective arbiter of peace. The pursuit of self-interest by major powers and the time-wasting procedures of the Security Council keep violence alive. Meanwhile, new battlegrounds are being found in cyberspace and elsewhere that increasingly will put our civilization at risk.
That was former President of the United Nations General Assembly, Dr. Rudy Nsenali, addressing President Donald Ramadar, Foreign Affairs Minister Carlin Rodrigues Burkett, and Guyana's heads of missions at the Pegasus Hotel on Tuesday. According to him, modern-day warfare gives little hope that peace will prevail within the near future.
I feel dehumanized every time I watch the television and see these tragedies occurring, involving men, women, and children, going through such horrific suffering, at the hands of their fellow man. What sort of humanity is that?
Even as evil prevails in the Middle East, Dr. Nsenali contends that there is a threat of a new Cold War and possibly that of a Third World War, but diplomacy, he said, must be called upon to minimize conflict and to protect peace. Dr. Nsenali's comments come on the heels of the Gaza-Israeli war, which appears to be at a standstill at the moment. Hamas and Israel have been at wit's end since the abduction and killing of 3 Israeli teenagers in June, but tensions flared after the suspected revenge killing of a Palestinian teenager in Jerusalem on July 2, resulting in 6 suspects being arrested. July 7th marked the beginning of a new war between the neighboring states when Hamas fired rockets for the first time in 20 months following a series of Israeli airstrikes. Reports now indicate that Israeli and Palestinian negotiators have begun discussions with the aim of developing a long-term solution to the conflict in Gaza. These discussions are unfolding amid an ongoing ceasefire agreement between Israel and the Islamist group Hamas. As the truce holds, officials, there are signs of normalcy in Gaza, but since July 8, approximately 2,000 people have been killed. According to the United Nations, those killed included more than 1,900 Palestinians, mostly civilians. 64 Israeli soldiers have been killed in the fighting, and 3 civilians in Israel have also died. For the Evening News, Michael Young reporting. Meanwhile, former Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Rudy Nsenali was highly praised as he launched his second book, Dancing Between the Raindrops, a dispatch from a small state diplomat, on Tuesday at the Pegasus Hotel. Details in this story. Dubbed one of Guyana's finest career diplomats, Dr. Rudy Nsenali was applauded for his outstanding performance in the area of international affairs. Although reading only 3 chapters of the book, President Donald Ramadar described Nsenali's writing as simply beautiful and easy to read. According to him, other Guyanese diplomats, experts and officials should follow in the footsteps of Nsenali, who also served as President of the UN General Assembly.
We know that many who have joined the service in that time, many have left us, and they haven't recorded their stories and their memories. And this alone makes this a very valuable piece of work.
Nsenali, who serves as the director of the Latin American Center in the Caribbean at UWI, said that the book chronicles her brother's experience as a young diplomat to present day, his multifaceted experience as a young diplomat, the glamorous and not so glamorous times, the tricks of the trade, and the usefulness of learning to dance between the raindrops are among interesting areas covered in this fine piece of art, according to Annette Nsenali.
In his book, Rudy recaps the persons, incidents, and opportunities that inched him towards a full-blown diplomatic career. The international law and international relations program that he pursued at the Sorbonne would have equipped him, but I do believe that it was Rudy's sensitivity and deep commitment to mankind and his genuine concern to remedy ills, to neutralize or resolve conflicts, and his conviction of the need for a new global human order that took him and kept him there. And this, I believe, is what the presidents, the prime ministers, the negotiators, the politicians realized and respected. He heard their positions, he spoke their language, he encouraged and reasoned, he was strident, he was apologetic. At the end of the day, his sincerity and candor, and not least his worldview and vision, earned him success in the art of letting others have his way.
Minister Rodriguez Burkett, in her presentation during the book launch, dubbed Nsenali one of Guyana's finest diplomats. According to her, the book will now be used as a guide to the diplomatic community. Accompanying the Foreign Affairs Minister were diplomats who are participating in the biannual conference of the heads of Guyana's missions. For the Evening News, Michael Young reporting. An employee of King's Jewellery World is now in the intensive care unit of the Georgetown Public Hospital following an accident at Friendship East Bank, Demerara on Tuesday evening. Delon Harlequin, 32 of Lot B Grant Scheme, Craig, East Bank, Demerara, sustained lacerations to the head, a broken leg, damage to his pelvic bone, and other injuries. His condition is listed as stable but serious. Harlequin was reportedly on his way home when he was struck by a motor car that sped out of the Friendship service station. As a result of the impact, Harlequin was flung off of his motorcycle and landed in a nearby trench, hitting his head on a concrete structure in the process. The driver of the car reportedly fled the scene, leaving the car behind, but was subsequently arrested by police. The injured man was picked up and taken to the Diamond Diagnostic Center, where he was subsequently transferred to the Georgetown Public Hospital. There he was rushed into the theater, where he underwent emergency surgery. If you have a news tip or a news story you would like us to, or news team to follow, message us on WhatsApp telephone number 680-9630. You can also call us at our office on 231-0382 or 226-2102, 223-7230 or 223-7231. You're watching the Evening News. Join us after these messages for more news. Welcome back. Thanks for staying with the Evening News. The People's Progressive Party Civic is calling on GCOM to ensure every eligible Guyanese is on the final voters list, especially with the possibility of early general and regional elections looming following the opposition's floating of a no-confidence motion in the National Assembly. The party in a release said it remains dissatisfied with the poor public relations by GCOM during the claims and objections period thus far. The party voiced its concerns over the inadequate time mobile units have spent in communities, especially in the hinterland regions, during the 6th cycle of registration. It again pointed to the lack of proper and timely notification to residents as regards mobile units visiting their communities. The PPC said much thought must be placed too on identifying convenient days and times unique to each community based on the diverse culture and way of life of the people. It shared the expectation that GCOM will act now to correct these deficiencies since the claims and objections period would conclude soon. The Ghana Elections Commission said it has received reports from Region 1, Barima Waini, that unauthorized persons claiming to be employees of the Commission have been visiting homes with copies of extracts of the current preliminary list of electors to check and advise residents on their registration status. Details from Alexis Rodney.
In a release to the media today, the electoral body said no GCOM staff is engaged in any such activity in Region 1 or any other region. It said staff members are authorized to embark on mobile exercises to provide opportunities for eligible persons in far-flung communities to conduct transactions relative to the ongoing claims and objections exercise. All such activities are adequately announced within the respective communities prior to the visit. The body also sought to make it clear that all of GCOM's employees working in the field are certified with identification badges at all times during the working hours. They are accompanied by duly accredited and adequately identifiable materials. The People's Progressive Party at its news conference on Monday had called on GCOM to ensure every eligible Guyanese is on the final voters list, especially with the possibility of an early general and regional elections looming following the opposition's floating of a no-confidence motion in the National Assembly. The party said that it remains dissatisfied with the poor public relations done by GCOM during the claims and objections period so far. The party's General Secretary Clement Rohi had said that it was the party's expectation that GCOM will act to correct the deficiencies since the claims and objections period will soon be concluded. For the Evening News, Alexis Rodney.
Thanks, Alexis. Meanwhile, the People's Progressive Party Civic hosted a press conference this afternoon where it responded to the misinformation being spread by the People's National Congress Reform and the opposition coalition group, a Partnership for National Unity. It accused the Ghana Elections Commission of padding the voters list. General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party Civic, Clement Rohi, is claiming that the preliminary list of electors has been padded. He made his claim on Wednesday at an emergency press briefing at the party's office. According to Rohi, the party has been reviewing the PLE when it observed that the number of registrants on the list has increased to an exorbitant amount.
In regards to names appearing on the list, indications are that the PLE may very well be padded. In this connection, GCOM needs to explain to the nation the surge amounting to 78,000 plus new registrants appearing on the PLE, whereas the pattern over the years has been approximately 11,000.
Rohi is demanding that GCOM provides a complete breakdown of the new registrants and their origins. These irregularities, the party's GS noted, came from regions 4, 3 and 1. He said that the sudden spike in the numbers of registrants is worrisome to his party.
And that is why we have to engage in a process of verification to find out where the 78,000 names came from. And that is exactly what is happening on the ground.
Okay. Can you say if this is restricted to a particular area or across the board?
Well, that is why we have to carry out house-to-house visits across the country to find out where these names are and where they came from.
Meanwhile, Rohi refuted claims made by GCOM and the APNU-PNCR opposition that its members have been posing as GCOM staff in Region 1. He said that GCOM failed to disclose that all of the political parties have copies of the PLE and are conducting verification checks countrywide. While the GS stated that his party does not know anything about the allegations, he could not have completely ruled out the possibility that their scrutineers might be the imposters. Fourth Evening News, Michael Young reporting. The First Assemblies of God Church, located on Durban Street, Georgetown, has received $41.7 million from the European Union to construct a center to teach life skills and build capacity among youth and seniors in the East Rhineveld area. Dubbed the Rhineveld Life Improvement Initiative's Multi-Purpose Business and Recreational Center, the project is funded under the European Union's non-state actors and local authorities in development thematic budget line. This line aims at encouraging non-state actors and local authorities, both from the EU and in developing countries, to get more involved in development issues. It is not the first time the church has benefited from EU funding for similar initiatives. Back in 2008, the church had received support from a $200 million Euro micro project scheme, which helped it commission a $100 million complex named Generation Next. Join us on the other side of the break for more news. Welcome back. You're watching the Evening News. The Buxton 1st of August movement, in collaboration with the Coffee 250 Committee, will be holding a State of African Villages Forum in Buxton on Sunday. The forum is in response to recent calls for African Guyanese revitalization by Vincent Alexander and will be held at 13 hours at the Friendship Primary School under the theme, "This Confounded Nonsense Must Stop, Time for African Guyanese Revitalization Now." The forum will bring together villagers, African Guyanese leaders, along with Buxtonian educators and activists to discuss issues affecting African Guyanese villages and communities and begin charting a way forward. Coffee 250 and the Buxton 1st of August movement believe this forum is timely given the obvious decline in the social and economic pillars of African villages. Farmers in Region 2 say they have had enough of the government's lethargic and unconcerned behavior over the unending woes they face in the Essequibo district. Alexis Rodney has the details.
The farmers say that they have been experiencing insurmountable pressure over the past year with no assistance from their representative, the Rice Producers Association, or the government through Agriculture Minister Dr. Leslie Ramsamy. Representatives of the Essequibo Paddy Farmers Association, during a press conference earlier today, bemoaned the conditions faced by paddy farmers in the region, declaring that they are at their wits' end. Tej Prasad Sucharan said paddy farmers have been struggling in the rice industry for many years now. According to him, it is a very heartbreaking situation for the farmers in the district.
For many years now, we are trying to get the attention of the people that are in charge, and we cannot get them. We tried a couple of times to get the minister. Well, when it have the former Minister of Agriculture, he came down one time and he do whatever he does. But this new minister, he don't want to come to talk to us. And every time he came to Essequibo, he always come and tell farmer, we bring some money for PIU.
Sucharan said that government needs to come to the understanding that they could not be easily bought. He said that the RPA has not been making the appropriate representation for them, claiming at one point that it may be working in concert with the government to fleece unsuspecting farmers. Farmers in the region face a number of problems, including issues with prompt payment by millers, the decreased price for payment, conditions under which farmers are to be paid by millers, and the interest rate attached for late payment set up by the Factory Act. All these things are affecting their livelihood.
Their own survey show that a bag of paddy is costing over $3,000, We work it out without our labor, and it costs $2,300 per bag. Now, if we got to receive $2,500 per bag, we can't live.
Rice farmers in the Essequibo district over the last few months have staged a number of protests demanding of the government to address the problems they faced. For the Evening News, Alexis Rodney.
A 39-year-old construction worker today appeared before Magistrate Anne McLennan at the Georgetown Magistrates Court to answer the charge of causing death due to dangerous driving. It was alleged that on February 16, 2014 at Marudi Public Road, Linden-Soosdyke Highway, the defendant Floyd Archer drove vehicle PPP 9953 in a manner dangerous to the public, in that way causing the decease of Jasmine Norton. Archer, who resides at Lot 209 Karakabara, Soosdyke, Linden, was represented by attorney at law Mark Conaway. He told the court that his client is living at the aforementioned address for 5 years. And although the matter had occurred since February month, Archer still comes to court to prove his innocence. There were no objections to bail. He was granted bail in the sum of $500,000 and will return to court on October 21, 2014. Credit Info Guyana, a recently established credit information company, is on a mission to assist Guyanese in their bid to secure loans and other credit-related businesses with little or no hassle. Alexis Rodney reports.
Officially launched in Guyana in September of last year, Credit Info is a global information company that has access to certain types of credit information that could provide credit grantors, including banks, retail, mortgage, and utility companies, with the capacity to make informed credit and financial decisions.
Credit Bureau actually interacts directly with what in Guyana we call credit information providers or grantors of credit, and we allow them access to a database of credit, consumers and business credit information, so that it can have a better, they can have a better capacity to improve their credit decision-making processes.
That was Chief Executive Officer of the Guyana branch, Judy Semple Joseph, who in an exclusive interview with the Evening News today at the entity's Newmarket Street location, explained that while the company has not yet gone live, it is in the process of securing an accurate and clean database so that banks could have access to the information on prospective borrowers.
The means by which we facilitate access to credit information is the process requires us having consumers and business credit information or individual credit information in a database that can be accessed by our subscribers, which is the banks and so on. So we have to know over the past year, what we've been involved in is really the processes that will lead up to us being able to have a viable database, an accurate and clean database, so that the banks get access to really make their credit decisions. So that when somebody goes into a bank for credit, their credit information can be there, so the bank will be able to access it and make a better credit decision.
Joseph said the biggest challenge is getting the public to understand the value of getting involved in the service. She said customers are entitled to an annual credit report which reflects information on their payments and the entities that will have been making queries about them. Since 1997, the Credit Info Group has been among the fastest growing companies in its field. Between 1998 and 2007, the average annual growth rate exceeded 50%. Since 2003, the company has offered diversified services in the area of credit risk management with information provision as the core of its services, including tools for decision-making, models, and software. For the Evening News, Alexis Rodney.
Common Life Network Incorporated, CANI, on Tuesday hosted the first ever Youth It conference at the Theatre Guild, Kingston, Georgetown. The conference, which started at 18:30 and ended at about 21:30, saw a scope of talented Guyanese personalities performing and giving motivational speeches to the audience. Speaking at the conference was social media marketer and coach Dr. Roshan Khan, who gave the audience tips on using social media and how it impacts their professional lives. Also addressing the gathering were Gordon Mosley, Sarah Barrett, Imara Radix, and Ryan Hoppy. Apart from the guest speakers, there was also a fashion show which highlighted designs made by local designer Randy Madry, dances, and a song by Tunisia de Freitas. Also present was local Guyanese songstress, rising star performer Lisa Punch, who spoke briefly about her experience on the ABC show. More news still ahead. You're tuned to the Evening News. Welcome back to the Evening News. It's now time for a look at what's happening in the region. Outgoing Governor General Dame Louise Lake Tak today accused the new Gaston Brown government of lying to the country regarding her removal from office. Dame Louise will be replaced by former legislator Dr. Rodney Williams as the ceremonial head of the country on Thursday, 2 months after the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party won the June 12th general elections. She urged the government there to come clean about the real reasons why she was removed from office or face the consequences. Now, internationally, more arms and aid are being sent to Iraq in a growing international push to tackle the Jihadist militants and help those who have fled their advance. The U.S. says it is considering airlifts and the creation of safe passages for fleeing civilians, but insists no U.S. ground forces will be in a combat role. France says it will arm Iraq's Kurds, who are already getting U.S. military aid to fight the Islamic State militants. The U.K. has pledged to join a rescue mission for displaced civilians. Members of the ancient Yazidi sect are among tens of thousands of people, mostly from religious minorities, who are sheltering in desperate conditions on Mount Sanjay in northern Iraq, according to the United Nations. The U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes told reporters on Wednesday that President Barack Obama was examining options for helping the stranded civilians who fled their homes after the IS assault last week. It's now time for a look at your bridge reports. The Demerara Harbour Bridge will be closed on Thursday, August 14 at 14 hours 30 for a period of 1.5 hours. The Berbice River Bridge will be closed at 16 hours 05 on Thursday, August 14, 2014 for a period of 1.5 hours. Join us on the other side of the break for your sport news. Welcome back. You're watching the Evening News. It's now time for a look at what's happening in the world of sport. But first, your headlines. Goodwill team pays courtesy call to sports director. 7 Seas 11 race cycling set for Saturday. And Police Sports Club confident ahead of Boys Jefford Classic. Our sports news comes to you with the kind compliments of Macor.
We believe that everything worth building should be built just once. That is why we build on culture, on trust, on integrity. We exist to do more, better, faster, safer. Your success depends on the foundation it's built on. Everything we do is meant to move you forward. Macor, let's build Guyana together.
Welcome back. Let's have a look at the sport news in detail. The Goodwill swimming team and executives of the Ghana Amateur Swimming Association paid a courtesy call to the Director of Sport, Neil Kamar, on Thursday at the National Sports Commission head office in Middle Street before leaving the event on Thursday. President of the GASA, Ivan Persaud, who was present, shared that the team has been fully prepared to represent Guyana in Suriname. Kumar highlighted that he was proud of his swimmers and their progression passion in the sport. He urged the swimmers to focus more on the longer distances. Guyana is the current defending champions at the Goodwill Games and is expected to return on Monday from the meet that starts this weekend. You'll now hear that local cyclists will hit the inner circuit of the National Park on Saturday for the 11th annual 7 Seas 11 race cycling program sponsored by Geddes Grant Guyana Limited. The day's activities are being sponsored and organized by the national cycling coach Hassan Mohammed, who said a highly competitive day of racing is anticipated. The annual Ride for Life 5-stage is usually held in the second half of the year, and that is one of the activities that riders will be aiming to get fully prepared for. Last year, the 7 Seas feature 35-lap schoolboys. An invitational race was won by Hamzad Eastman of the United Bikers Club, but he will be hard-pressed to retain the title since most of the top riders are expected to face the starters order on Saturday. Action will pedal off at 9 hours. It is the final week of the most anticipated track and field meet in Guyana, the Boys Jefford Track and Field Classic, and the Police Sports Club is confident of running away with the title when the event is held on August 16th and 17th at the Mackenzie Sports Club Ground, Linden. The two-day event will see some of Guyana's top athletes matching strides with each other, and one of the strongest clubs in the country is ready to compete for the top prize of $600,000. Coach of the Police Club, Mark Scott, related the feelings of his athletes heading into the event that is set for a 12-hour start on Saturday. So serious is the focus of the club. Scott revealed how extensive preparation for the lucrative meet had been. That has brought us to the end of the evening news for today, Wednesday, August 13, 2014. Please remember to get a copy of tomorrow's edition of the Guyana Times for details on these stories and others. I'm Michael Young. Thanking you very much for joining us and encouraging you to do have a good night. Goodbye.